there. I'm gonna swap this copy because that's my own copy.
Right. I just, if I'm gonna remote in on CCAP network, I'm not using the county's public.
Right.
Yes.
One more. All right.
Yeah, I'm not connected on my phone.
So we are 8:30. We are waiting for one more member to meet quorum. Give it just a moment here.
Nice gavel.
Yeah.
Hey, Jen.
Yeah. Just, is there like a classes you take? I gotta learn how to.
No.
No.
Jen.
It's Richland County 1842.
Richland County. 18.
Yep. Every time I think the R and the C are capitalized.
Yeah. Okay. I'm turning English.
I think the password. Yeah, well, I didn't. We are.
I'm sorry, what did you?
Guesses because we had county board on Tuesday, and then this is the first Friday that people are not putting, there's a larger gap between there. So that is my guess.
I would guess you're probably correct.
And I don't want to drag out everybody's time too much here. And I guess I would not have any trouble bumping it to next Friday. I know that's after election and all the headaches that are going to go on, all that time frame. I don't want to.
Yeah, if we're not able to get a quorum, I'm not sure we have a lot of other options, so.
Yeah, I mean, we can have some discussion, but kind of what's the point?
Yeah.
If
I can call words and see if Chad could join.
I just texted Chad too.
Oh, you
I
did,
texted
okay.
Chad here. I don't have phone numbers for.
Okay,
I don't
we'll give it 5 minutes, see what happens. Don't want to waste everybody's.
I'll hang loose.
Thank you, sir. This is all kind of combined. So, all right. So this is the Public Safety Standing Committee, and this is the November 1st meeting. And if we could, roll call, please.
House.
Here.
Cosgrove. Right.
Here.
Loving.
Here.
Thank you very much. The verification of open meetings law compliance, everything was met. Thank you very much. Number 4, approval of agenda, 15-point agenda. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Fleming, and second. Cosgrove. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Item number that is passed. Item number 6, public comment. Putting the floor over public comment at this point. Oh, did I not? Oh, the agenda. Yeah, I'm sorry. Number 5. I skipped right down. Approval of the minutes from October 4, 2024. Approve the minutes first. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes. Cosgrove.
I'll second.
Fleming, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passed. Thank you for on that. Item number 6 is public comments. Any public comments? Going, gone. All right. Item number 7, reports. Sheriff, you want to just go through yours quick?
Yeah. Month of October, we had 43,000 in vouchers, almost 44,000 in vouchers. Number of jail bookings was 45. Average number of inmates housed was 33. 368 monthly complaints. 13 citations, 12 civil process papers served and 12 transcripts for the month. The average number on electronic monitoring was 12. Dispatch activity, we had 630 calls for service, 86 calls for EMS, and 122 calls for the police department. Also, last week, and I talked about this in county board or mentioned this in county board, but last week was Sergeant Isaac Gerber and K9 Raven's first week as a team together. So they've been out on patrol now. This will be their second week. So I was planning on having him here for this meeting, but we'll get him here to one of these meetings and introduce him to the committee. So
Awesome. We did mention last time, if you could get fire calls, did you check into that on here? You get ambulance, and it'd be interesting to see what that.
yes, I did not get the fire calls,
You
but
can
I
think about that. I think that'd be just a good number for everybody to see on a repeat basis.
yes.
Okay. Anything else, the sheriff?
Nothing else.
Okay. Any questions? Right. Coroner, no coroner reports at this point. Mike's not here. You don't have anything? No. Else, get anything? Okay, we'll move on to that. Circuit Court Judge.
Morning.
Good morning.
Great. Well, I've been gone for a few days. I had an out-of-county jury trial. I understand that there have been some chairs brought over from the campus for us to look at, a couple examples of chairs. We have requested chairs for the courtroom, for the jury room, we could use some in the small courtroom. And the need for chairs is great. We have maybe half to maybe 2/3 of the amount of chairs we need actually in the courtroom. I would actually invite people to come up and take a look at it. During COVID, there was a little bit of remodeling that happened. It was more or less on a shoestring budget. And all of the bench type chairs that were in the courtroom, very old, in need of repair, were removed. And the clerk of court and the register and probate found a little bit of money in their budgets left over and were able to purchase some chairs. But it's actually looks fairly ridiculous in there that we don't have enough chairs. So we were hoping that there would be some appropriate chairs from the campus that we could utilize. We heard rumors that perhaps that was the case. So there are a couple. So when I came in this morning, there are a couple examples for us to take a look at. So we're going to look at whether or not we can utilize them. They aren't going to match the chairs that are in the courtroom. So I don't know how that's going to look. I mean, just to be honest, I don't really want our courtroom looking like a thrift store.
No.
But, you know, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We had heard that there might be some nice rolling chairs to put into the jury room, like desk type chairs. And then we got word that there were some liability concerns. I'm trying to sort of sort that out, some word from Candace as to what that's all about. I don't really understand that because every jury room that I'm familiar with currently, they actually utilize rolling chairs in the jury room. So we'll see what that's about. Andy had thought that there might be some nice rolling chairs for the jury room. So not sure about that. Certainly not saying we should put rolling chairs in the courtroom for a lot of reasons, including the fact that it's the gallery is sort of weird setup. That could be a liability concern. I don't think anybody's saying that's not the case. So if we're not able to get nice chairs, you know, we're going to have to look at, and if we don't end up with a different scenario all the way around in terms of where we're going to be housed, I do think we seriously need to look at what we're going to do with regard to that gallery. It became apparent as well that the chairs currently are also a security concern, because the chairs that are in there are light enough and independent of one another. You can actually pick them up and check them. And that becomes a concerted security concern that was pointed out to us. I don't think anybody's denying that as well, so. A bench type situation that's sort of bolted into the ground is more ideal, but we'll have to sort out what's available at this point and figure it out. We're also looking for, I don't know if the kiosk has come over yet, or,
So I don't believe so yet, no. But we did, I talked to Randy, it's probably been a couple of weeks ago now, and just said, let's find the nicest looking one with a level top, bring it over. Because there were several, there was a couple that looked very familiar. It's just, I think find the nicest looking one and bring it. Yeah, we could use it.
all right,
What is the kiosk for?
It's a podium, but what we're looking at doing is, so if you come in from the elevator side into the courtroom, you'll notice that court security has been sitting just up into the gallery from the door. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this podium there, get them a raised chair, and then eventually when the new camera system is finished, they'll actually be able to monitor the camera and do all that stuff from that space. So they can, A, kind of have a little elevated view above the court, and then B, have access to see cameras and see who's moving throughout the building while they're in there. So it's just a workstation is essentially what we're looking at it as for home security.
that's a good phrase, workstation. And of course, this is something that is a great idea, but is utilized in surrounding counties, sort of this workstation. So, you know, our resources are limited. So if there is one court officer, then they can have their eyes on hallways and things outside the courtroom as well. And so speaking of court security, that has been an ongoing project, and I just, again, really have to commend Clay and Devin. They've really stepped up to the plate, and they've listened to the concerns that we've had, and they've brought their expertise and efforts to the table. And there's been a lot of revamping of just the whole idea behind court security, making sure that there's an officer scheduled, training of officers, making sure that people that come into the courtroom are wanded before they come into the courtroom, making sure that, you know, they don't have cell phones on, making sure that they don't have food and drink or bags, addressing the whole idea that we've got to have appropriate signage. And I think that, yeah, there's absolutely progress being made in that area. And I certainly appreciate it. And it has definitely been an improvement overall. So we're happy to be able to collaborate with the sheriff's department when it comes to that.
So is there anything under item K with the security report while you're talking about that, or is that kind of a separate?
That's a separate issue.
Okay.
So the court security report, I believe, refers to the assessment and resulting written 60-some page report that I have promised to summarize and truncate, and I have not gotten to it. I will again promise to get it done by next meeting. I have actually been looking at it, and I think I can come up with some nice bullet points for everyone. And we want that. We just always want the security, reality of the security deficits in our courtroom to be in front of folks. Moving forward and always trying to, you know, one piece at a time, trying to figure out what we're going to do to get up to speed and up to what's required. And frankly, what's just absolutely reasonable and is not occurring here. So occurring in our county. That's ongoing efforts as well. So.
Okay, all right.
All right, so I really struggled to know what to share with this committee because there's so much that goes on with the circuit court. And sometimes I think, well, you know, what do you care, right? I mean, I think so when it's probably stuff that has to do with budgets and, you know, how the county board can help us and have that kind of communication. So in that vein, a few things. We have budgeted for a computer and a workstation that would allow the public access to legal research a legal research database. Westlaw is probably the most well-known legal research database. And so we have gotten a subscription to that for the public. And we are going to, and we as in Randy and Barb, are going to put up a workstation in the hallway downstairs near the clerk of court's office. And that's going to be simply for the public to utilize legal research options. We have a law library as well. And in years past, typically what happens is the public is welcome to utilize it. It's a little more awkward because it's upstairs and they have to get a key. And all of that isn't the biggest obstacle. The biggest obstacle is that most of the books in the law library need to be updated on a regular basis because the law changes and it's expensive. It's very, very expensive. And so a lot of the subscriptions for legal books have fallen by the wayside over the years. And we haven't updated those subscriptions because they are so very, very expensive. So in trying to find a solution for that makes sense for the public, we have decided to set up this workstation so people can log into Westlaw. They can get access to the statutes, they can get access to Wisconsin case law, and that's actually required by the Supreme Court. There's a rule that indicates that every county needs to have a legal or a law library that's accessible to the public. And so that's, if you see that in the hallway, that's what our efforts are all about there. We are, that is in progress as well. We just were contacted by Barb in that regard. So I think that that's set to happen before too long. That of course requires getting a computer, getting it hardwired into some place. And the computer itself, the only thing the public will be able to do on it will be to access Westlaw for purposes of legal research. So we got that going on. We have a project in the small courtroom whereby we need Zoom capabilities and we need audio. And so we have been talking to CCAP. So CCAP is the one that makes sure that everything is, the court has its access to the utilizing and that the judge, the clerks, everybody can access court records and get what we need from our end, but also making sure that the digital audio recording, which is how now the court records all of its hearings, all of that is working well and flawlessly, and so in each courtroom. So the county is not responsible for that piece of it, but the county is responsible for like the audio in the courtroom so that the people in the courtroom can hear everything that's going on. The county is responsible for the Zoom capabilities. And all of that exists in the big courtroom, but it does not at all exist in the small courtroom. There is to date not a single speaker in the small courtroom. And when the heater is on or when the air conditioning is on, even though it's a smaller space, it is almost impossible to hear what is going on. And then the Zoom capabilities are so important because we regularly utilize Zoom. It pops up for, we need it for attorneys that are appearing remotely, which I'm not a big fan of. But even when that's not occurring, we have victims that we allow to appear by Zoom. We have experts, we have
Doctors. Incarcerated persons from the prisons so that we don't have to transport them.
people from the prisons, inmates in the jail even can appear by Zoom. When we have bail hearings every day, we have inmates appearing by Zoom so that it doesn't take up officer time bringing them up and back. So it very much makes sense that we should have Zoom in the small courtroom, and that's in the works as well. And given, again, where we're not sure where we're gonna be in 5 years or 10 years, I think that we're hoping to get something that's not necessarily, maybe something like a mobile cart with a big TV and Zoom capabilities on it and cameras. So that if things move and change, so we don't have to pull stuff out of the walls, that sort of thing. So that's ongoing. We keep circling back around to that, hoping that'll happen before too long. So that's sort of the physical things that are happening in the court area of the county. We also have further issues requiring budgeting, and the two that come to mind are the need for mediators in court and the need for interpreters in court. And those are both costs that are borne by the county. We had for many years some wonderful mediators, and those mediators have one by one, retired or resigned or gone on to do other things. And so suddenly and all of a sudden we found ourselves basically without a mediator. And we were fortunate enough to persuade maybe former Judge Kirchman from Crawford County to come over, and he did his first mediation a couple weeks ago. We do mediation in family law cases and in small claims. In family law cases, it's statutorily mandated that the county pay for mediators for the first session. Mediation makes a whole lot of sense. I'm sure we don't have time to get into that today, but we are pretty lucky to have someone now who is experienced in the court system, is experienced as a mediator. He's been doing mediation now down in Grant County, and he's going to come out probably twice a month and do mediation on our small claims, around our small claims block, and then with our family law cases as well. So I anticipate that over time, our mediation costs are going to actually go up a little bit. I don't know. Our mediators have been mediating at a very, very low rate, monetary rate for compensation, and I don't think that's going to last. I think we're going to have to, like in so many other areas, start paying our mediators in this county what they get paid in other counties, which is more along the lines of $100 an hour. Right now, I think it's $60 an hour. So that's certainly going to impact the bottom line. But mediators and mediation is very important in what we do. So we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, in the months to come. In terms of interpreters, we also have a great need for interpreters. We typically use a service that's, I don't know, are they located somewhere?
Swits, they're out of Delavan.
All right.
But we also use Alejandra Cleric, and I think she's down by Beloit or Dane County or somewhere.
So, we can get an interpreter wherever we find one. The issue is that the interpreters need to be certified, and getting certified interpreters are expensive. We can't have somebody interpreting a court who's not certified. And so finding those folks, and often finding them last minute, is difficult. And they almost always appear by Zoom. So our need for interpreters is great and is growing. We have, I think, an increasing number of folks coming into the court system who are, and almost most of them are, that are speaking another language or speaking Spanish. It used to be that we would have an interpreter block, in other words, a block of hearings where litigants needed an interpreter once every 3 months, I think, and we set it like for a 3-hour block. And we decided that was not enough time, that we just had too many cases on that block, or we just couldn't fit any more on there. So we moved to having an interpreter block once a month and for a couple hours. And now we've decided that's not enough. So So we're gonna have an interpreter twice a month for 2 hours.
Additionally, it's due to time limits for cases,
Yes.
so that we're not having to schedule interpreters in between the blocks, because that's more expensive than the block scheduling is.
Most interpreters require a minimum. So if you start with an interpreter and you use them for half an hour, they still are going to require like a 2-hour minimum. So we're trying to sort of be smart with that and just have these 2-hour blocks. But yeah, so if you have somebody charged with a crime and they're in the jail, there's time limits for certain hearings. And you can't just necessarily wait for a block. So if we have it twice a month. So those are some of the issues that we deal with in the circuit court that certainly impact the county and the county's budget. Any questions?
So I'm on the campus reconfiguration, so I was out at the campus recently, looking at chairs and items that you had requested, and a lot of departments had. So some of the conditions of some of the things out there are in pretty good shape, and some aren't. So I think that's why I'm filtering through some of the things to see what is usable, and maybe not really aesthetically usable or functionally usable is something that we're sorting through. So that's definitely being looked at. There's a lot of stuff out there to go through and figure out. So you'll continue working on that process and those requests. So along with the law library, is there going to be 2 computers on that? Was my understanding.
So the clerk of court's office has a public access station that's not connected to a legal research thing that's already out in the hallway. That's that's owned by the state, that's
Okay.
circuit court automation equipment, CCAP. And so the idea would be that the law library computer station would be next to that, outside of the clerk of court's office. But no, what's there now are public access stations owned by CCAP. CCAP will not own a computer for the county's use for software other than CCAP. So that is why we need to acquire our own county-owned piece of equipment for this law research piece.
Right,
It's
and
available for the public.
and look at the campus. I think we found a stand desk that has positioning for 2 separate units, all in one piece. So I think that's what, when we were talking about that out there, I think that must be the same project. Okay.
Maybe if somebody could take a picture of it and send it to us, that would be cool.
Yes, I did take some pictures when I was out there. I haven't gotten through into the different rooms and categories yet, so we are working on that too. Okay. Yes.
Some questions. As far as the chairs, you were asking about the rolling chairs. You said you were in another county for a jury there. Do you know what chairs they had in their jury room? Did they have rolling chairs?
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, I know for sure both Vernon and Iowa County utilize rolling chairs in their jury rooms.
And then do we have any money at all in the budget for any new chairs or in the capital improvement?
We've tried to put it in the capital improvement, but I think it was struck. Correct?
Yes, I don't think that was put in the capital improvement chairs first. So, I mean, I know we are proposing having a very small judge's budget in 2025, which is like around $5,000, maybe not a lot, but enough that if there was needs, that before it was always like every need from $100 to any amount. It was like, where was the money going to come from before? And so that can be looked at, but right now there's no money set aside for chairs that I'm aware of.
So the amount we just talked about, though, that was in the budget we just approved.
The
Was that
5,000
put in that budget? Yeah.
for the judge, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe
So, yeah. And then as far as the law computer, you're saying that people could go there and search to find out information. Is that something that's in addition to what they could do at their own computer, or this is just?
Yes.
It is an addition.
Yeah, it's a subscription to a product. Are you using Westlaw or? And
That's not
so,
something anybody can look at
No.
without this.
no, it's specialized. It will allow them, it takes the place of like physical books that would be legal publications. And it's kind of what counties are moving to. A lot of counties have gotten rid of their law libraries and or worked with their like public library and stuff like that. But because publications are expensive, these companies, Westlaw, they've developed products that attorneys use them now for their own legal research. So this would be like, because if you're pro se, if you don't have an attorney, you still have the same burden of your own legal research. So those folks would have tools to the same thing that maybe the opposite side of the case has. Yeah, it's providing that Supreme Court mandated legal research.
Are they able to print that as well? Like, let's say they found some information that they wanted, would they be able to print? For
I don't
interactions, or
think so.
No,
we're not required to have that available for them?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes it might be several pages they want to print.
They can take pictures with their phone and stuff. I don't think there's any requirement for us to have a printer, and then that gets pretty pricey. And then again, we'd probably have to get, permission from the state to hook, because what are we gonna hook it to be able to, well, maybe it's standalone to print, but the CCAP system is so secure that you can't just hook random things to it.
Well, no, I understand that. I just didn't know if the separate law piece, it was something that was required for them to be printing it, and if so, how do you do that?
no, I don't think so. I mean, if you think about them going into the law library with, hardcover books or with the books,
There they maybe,
they wouldn't have an opportunity to be
unless they can be.
copying from there either, so.
As far as the small courtroom, you were talking about the Zoom capability, and you're hoping that's coming soon. Is that actually in the works, or you're just?
It was put into a capital project, I think, for was it in this year,
Okay,
2024?
okay, so the money is allocated and it's just.
We thought so.
I think I think a lot of it's still just, people needing, there's just not enough time in the
Right.
day really to make it,
Yeah.
there's so many pieces to it.
A lot of irons in the fire right now.
Sorry?
A lot of irons in the fire right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
a lot.
that's right.
As far as mediators, what are the qualifications?
So there are trainings that mediators are to go through, and I think that just about anybody could do that and get the certification for training.
Okay, so it's.
So in terms of like certifications, it's not necessarily that difficult. But in terms of, that isn't necessarily gonna make somebody a good mediator, right?
Correct.
Um,
I just didn't know, because you would refer to the retired judge, so are they required to be an attorney or a judge?
Not necessarily, no.
But most of them that we've worked with have a good, solid knowledge, background of the court system. And I think that's very helpful, because the mediating, getting people, agreeable on stuff, that's a skill. But the knowledge of the court system and what happens when folks don't agree, that is probably equally.
And in family law cases, people can't sometimes want to agree with something that the judge can't not approve. So to have knowledge of that is very important.
So what about, we have some retired judges in this area, right, and or retired attorneys, have they all been approached about
Oh, yeah.
possibly
So
doing this?
our
Let's see some
family,
of them.
our family court commissioner, Deb Schwartz, who's retired herself, she has reached out to a lot of people. And there has not been a lot of interest other than Judge Birchman, and now recently retired Judge Vandehay, he is interested in being able to fill in for Judge Kirchman. So we have that as well. But other than that, there are not a lot of folks.
And you mentioned increase in pay, what is the process to be able to go through that?
Well, frankly, I think being able to say to the county board, look, there's gonna be a bump in pay for mediators, and just trying to give everyone a heads up that this is going to occur. Because, you're gonna see it as far as the bottom line. It's a statutorily mandated thing, and so there isn't gonna be a whole lot. I think frankly, it comes down to whether or not I approve this individual as a mediator, and feeling like this is just our best option.
Is that something this committee then would have to send a recommendation to the
No.
board, or?
Oh, for the amount,
For the amount.
yes. But not the
The
people.
increase in pay?
No, they're contracted employees, just like, or contractors, just like interpreters are, which it varies in pay. So in the clerk of court's budget, there's a line item for, there's actually a county's mediation fund. It's in the mediation fund. So what we pay the mediators for family mediation comes out of that. What we pay mediators for small claims mediation comes out of, my line items out of the 5121 clerk of court budget. So there's two different budgets for the mediation, and I handle the invoicing and stuff. And so I invoice the family and paternity cases out of the mediation funds. That has the mediation fund. Then on the revenue side of it, there's a portion of every marriage license that's issued in the county clerk's office that actually goes in the mediation fund, which is, you know, you think, oh, it's kind of weird, but actually but it is interesting because, I mean, it's, if people mediate, sometimes people stay married, or it's in the interest of, you know, children that they are able to mediate in family cases. So it does, you know, it makes good sense. But then people's first session at mediation is free, but then after that, the cost that they incur, then I invoice them. I figure out the, you know, what portion was free, what part they get invoiced, the county pays the full bill. And then I work with the parties to get the reimbursement. So the reimbursement I get then also goes into the mediation fund as revenue. So it's not just that we just take out of this fund. We get back into this fund, and the county clerk's office contributes to the fund as well through the marriage licenses. So it's, you know, close to a wash, actually. So really, when you look at it, it's not that huge of an expense for the county. Interpreters are a lot larger of an expense. And I saw Judge Kirchman's his first bill, and I thought it was very reasonable. So was in line.
Who sets that hourly rate?
They do.
They do. So as
They
from the
do.
contract insurance, because you were saying 60 and going to 100. I didn't know. if
We
it was
negotiate,
set.
you know, they might say maybe I think he's charged. He's like, is it 50 an hour? I mean, he's not charging a lot.
Okay.
He is in line with other mediators that we have had. He is value for the money.
Fully contracted.
And I think the rationale, and this has been coming to me as conversations, these retired judges, that mediators should be paid the Supreme Court rate for attorneys. And as you
Just
know, that's
100.
gone up recently. Used to be $70 an hour. Now court-appointed attorneys are paid $100 an hour. So I think that's the rationale for that.
Okay.
And it's been typically, I think we've paid about $60 an hour historically for many years. So I just want people to know that there's hopefully going to be a bump.
Right, got it.
Do you feel that amount that's included in the marriage license needs to be increased then?
That's probably statutory is my guess, correct,
It is.
Miranda? And so it probably does, but it's, but that's a whole,
That's something you can.
that's a statute. That would be county clerks, you know, county clerks association working with, I mean, that's not something a county can just say that it should be this or charge more. They're like us. Everything
Already
is set. The amounts of certain fees are set.
And then one last question, I'm sorry. As far as the interpreters, is there interpreters or individuals working for the school district that could be
No.
used as well?
No. And can I take this? I was appointed by the chief judges of Wisconsin for the interpreter subcommittee for Wisconsin recently, and we've started, I haven't even talked to you about that. That's just started within like the last month and whatever. So, any rate, we're looking at the various issues throughout the state for the shortage of interpreters. The statute says circuit courts must use qualified interpreters, but the director's office, the management services for the state of Wisconsin, will not reimburse counties if they don't use certified interpreters. And so statute says qualified, director's office says no pay unless certified. So one of the things that the subcommittee, the clerks on it, the subcommittee is chief judges, district court administrators, state officials. There's a few clerks on it. There's like, I think 3 clerks of court. And so I think the clerks of court, we've been talking like, we see the bills, we coordinate the interpreters. Our counties feel it the most. And so we probably have the best handle of anybody on the committee is how much they cost, how hard they are to get, how constrictive these policies are. And we're all like, statute says qualified, but the director's office says we gotta use certified. There's different levels of certification. The folks that might work for the schools, they've not even been into the process. They're not even provisionally certified. They're not certified at all for court use. If we use them, we would get absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so we don't use them. So part of our thing is right now saying, hey, are Wisconsin standards maybe a little too high? Because the director of SWIT, Saul Artiaga, he's the lead interpreter for that agency out of Delavan that we utilize a lot, because you can just kind of call them and get an interpreter on the fly. They connect through their system, and that interpreter's not in Delavan, they're somewhere, but we get them within a few minutes, whatever. He said he has a lot of interpreter agency friends in other states, and he told us at the last meeting that Wisconsin standards are exceptionally high. So that's something that clerks have been questioning the director's office for years, saying statute says this, but you're requiring us to use this extreme high level of certification, which is very hard to obtain. And so why? And they say, well, we're right with national standards. And the director of SWITS is saying, you're like above the national standards. In Wisconsin right now, 72 counties, there are 24 certified Spanish interpreters. That is it. And counties like Waukesha, Milwaukee, Dane, they're all trying to get their own full-time interpreters on staff. So they're taking out of that 24. So the list keeps getting smaller. And we had a really good interpreter we were working with, and he became, several months back, Fred Svensson became the staff interpreter for Dane County. He lives in Dane County. They can pay him buku bucks. How can we compete with that? And no counties can. So that's part of the problem is the pool isn't big enough. The state, the director's office, they're turning out like one certified person through their testing process a year, if they're lucky. People, maybe like 20 people enter the process, say like 12 pass the written examination. They get to the oral exam. They have to be able to simultaneously interpret. So while you're hearing the Spanish, you're speaking the English and vice versa. Very difficult. And so a lot of people try this multiple times. I think last year nobody was certified. And so as the director's office actually divulges this information, the 72 clerks of court are saying, come on, something's wrong with your process. So why are you keep, mandating this on us? So part of the subcommittee, there's going to be a pushback. They're saying, what are the challenges that's been identified challenges? What do you think we can do to increase the pool? Maybe some apprentice programs, so that people can work their way into it, kind of like how court reporters could work their way into it and go under the wing of somebody who's already certified and practice and get up to there, going to the tech colleges, even the high schools. But certification is very difficult. They really want people who are college educated and fluent in both languages. But fluent, just because somebody speaks Spanish, it's not good enough. So that's it. And another challenge that we're having, because there's only 24 of them, they know how precious they are. And so they are not only, it used to be cancellation policies. We've rolled with that for years. Like you set a trial and then if you cancel within 72 hours, they're going to charge you at least half of their fees. Well, now that's not good enough. Now they're going to booking fees. So you even call them and you say, we need you for this court trial in 2 weeks. And then whatever, a few days before the court trial, the attorneys say, we got this all worked out. And we call them and we say, we don't need you anymore. And we're outside of that 72 hour frame. And they say, yeah, but we had to calendar you, so you have to pay us this. It's a booking fee. And so we have interpreters that are taking multiple bookings, kind of like a doctor's office, dentist office. They're like triple booking. So, but they can get away with all of this because there's such a small pool. So that's one of our challenges. We're lucky we don't have a need for a lot of the other languages, in some areas it's Hmong, whatever. We've had those sometimes. Our second to Spanish is ASL, American Sign Language. And we have a case right now where every time they have a hearing, we have to have an American Sign Language interpreter, and they're much more expensive than Spanish. And that's not even an interpreter, that's a ADA accommodation. So we have to be really careful with that stuff, but it comes out of our interpreter line. So,
So when we have these people in court, obviously we have them in jail. Do we have people in jail that are in the jailers that are fluent in Spanish?
What was that?
Obviously, if we have them in court, we're having them in the jail. So do we have officers that are fluent in both languages to communicate with them?
We have a jailer at one jailer who is fluent in both languages.
So if that jailer is on vacation.
We have language line as
Then,
well.
then what do you do?
Language line.
which is like
Language line.
language line.
Oh, just like what she's talking about.
It's kind of like, yeah, they have a pool of
Yeah,
people
I don't
that
know
they
if it's the
can
same thing, but probably.
similar. Yeah. At the window,
Right.
we use we use apps at the window when folks come to the clerk of court's office.
Translate or-
Yeah, Google, I put an app on my phone. A lot of the customers have apps too, which is just only gonna lead to all of us never having to learn another language and folks who use it never having to learn English. But it's helpful, but that doesn't pass the muster for in the courtroom. We have to use a certified.
And to complicate matters, we just had our first family case with two Spanish-speaking
yes.
litigants that was sent to mediation, and they both needed her. So
And that has to be certified. We have asked that was kind of like, whose job is it to line up the interpreters? It's the clerk of court's office. We're gonna line up the interpreters. Our job to pay them because it's court ordered. So, which mediation is. You can't just, mediation's gonna be court ordered. It's not like the judge is doing something wrong. She's doing everything exactly how she's supposed to. But it's all of these really strict rules set forth by the director of state court's office.
Any other questions for the judge? I know you've got it.
yeah, I've got it here.
I'm good.
Else. All right.
Thank you for letting me share.
No, thank you. The information is important because again, we are following up on these things. They take more time than we. So, clerk of court,
Thanks.
anything else?
Yeah, I'll cross off. I was gonna explain about the interpreter subcommittee and stuff, so I think we
I'll do that.
nailed that. So it's in its early stages, and that I'll be continuing to take part in that and hope we can get some positive changes. So collaborations, our office has been collaborating with a number of agents.
Yeah, I'm sorry, hang on a second.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
So I also have court at 9:30.
okay.
Oh, Jen, sorry.
That's okay, because it's a juvenile case and it was my call and I squeezed it in because the judge's calendar is so full. So
Anything particular you have?
I don't, I'm just trying to keep up with Judge McDougal.
Go keep up with Judge McCool then. Apologize. Thank you for.
Yeah, no, I didn't, so there was no reports, because today is November 1st.
Right.
So I didn't feel like it was fair to Tammy Whitlock to try and get it, so there's no report in there, I'm currently under budget. And, yes, there's a lot of balls in the air, and in addition
Yes.
to everything Judge McDougal stated, we're working on the wage study and all of the things, so it does feel like, everything she said plus a little bit more in that 2025 calendar. I promise I'm gonna get traffic out and stuff, if not today, first of next week, I promise that I'm almost done with the judge's 2025 calendar. So then I'll be sending out dates to
Awesome.
everyone, so.
All right, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I love your shirt.
All right, Stacy, and then we'll.
Yeah, so we've been collaborating with a number of county agencies and a number of state agencies in many of the activities that we're doing right now. Just kind of note, we have worked extensively with the State Historical Society for a number of years, probably since like 2008. But lately we have been, we do this all in conjunction with adherence to Supreme Court rules on records retention. Court records have a very detailed records by case type and by disposition. So, small claims cases that were dismissed have a shorter time frame than small claims cases that had judgments. Felony cases that are of a certain severity of crime have a longer retention than just a regular felony. Cases that are disposed as misdemeanors are 20 years from the date of disposition, that they stay on public record and that we maintain them in our office. Civil cases are like 20 years. Family cases are 40 now. So we're constantly looking at the groups of records that we have and making sure that we're compliant with the Supreme Court rules. And then we offer everything that is beyond its retention. We first offer it to the State Historical Society per the Supreme Court. And then the Historical Society, there's reasons why they're interested in certain things, not in others. And then their archivist comes out and we work with them, take stuff. I think some others now in the courthouse are starting to work with the archivist. I've introduced him to the county clerk and to others. He's really great to work with. So we have been doing a lot of that. And then as soon as they say we don't want something, then we can purge it. And then we take the old files apart, take the metal out of them and put them into the shred bins. So then we fill up a lot of shred bins and everybody's like, but just, we have a lot of volume. We can't do anything about that. That's just the nature of what we do. And that's the side effect of it, I guess.
So you're creating space, you're getting rid of paper documents.
We
in essence.
we do create space. We've been able to move from the basement many of the old records that are up there so that when we're doing record searches and we're doing purging, we have them handy. But a lot of them have molds. So that's why the Historical Society didn't take our records indexes that went with some of the old records because they have black mold in them. And they found that out as where Sarah and I are looking over the big books with them and he's got it open and then he closes it and says, yeah, I can't take this or I won't take this. I said, why? He seemed so interested in it. He opened it back up. See, this is black mold. And I'm like, oh, wow, that explains why I have a really hard time working in the basement. So, those are the records that we're really wanting to get rid of the most because they're nasty. Years ago, we had fluorescent lights that came unhinged in the vault and swung down and broke over the top of all of our records. And Avery and Lester and I worked on cleaning that up. There were shards of glass everywhere and they got into the files. Well, now some of the files, as we're pulling them out, like Sarah pulled one out the other day, got a nice cut. And you gotta be careful, because that stuff could end up in your eyes. So that's another reason we're trying to get those files out. But don't have any impression that we're clearing out rooms, available rooms. That's
No, it's not for available room. I'm just curious that papers we're getting.
well, we have been electronic since 2014. So we're not creating any more paper. We aren't. But there's still, we're talking decades and decades of stuff and a lot of it that we do have to maintain. And for us it would cost county a lot of bucks if we had somebody come in and scan records. We scan records every day of old stuff, but we can't, in our duties of what we're doing, we can't make huge headway. Every day, it's just chipping away at it. So yeah, it'll be quite some time before we're completely out of paper. I won't give you an estimate of when.
Well, and there's not an estimate for that. Just to know that.
Yeah, no, we've been doing that.
That's excellent.
We've been doing that for the last decade. Every technology and every stuff that I could take advantage of, I've always done in our office. There's counties near us that still take written minutes. We haven't done that since I don't know when. So at any rate, yeah, we were working with those guys. Been working with the state law librarian. I met her at the Clerks Institute in February and asked her to speak at the Clerk of Courts Conference in October. she made an offer to everybody to come to our law libraries in our counties and help judges and clerks identify, like, of these old volumes you can destroy, keep destroy. So Judge McDougall had this long trial in Vernon County. Now that she's done with that, we're working on dates with her calendar and the state law librarian so that she can come out on site and help us identify stuff in our physical law library.
Excellent.
So where she's been out of the county, she hasn't had as much of a chance to work on that yet, but that'll be coming together, I think, yet this year.
Good project.
So that's pretty cool. Another person that's really easy to work with on the state level. Something that Sarah and I are starting to do some work with the DA's office on, and this might involve the sheriff's department at some point too. Criminal Information Bureau reporting. We have recently discovered that a number of dispositions haven't gotten reported to the Criminal Information Bureau because arrest tracking numbers are missing in the cases. And so I think it's probably, maybe the DA's office has some of that information. And so that's where we're going to them, because they should be able to put it in their interface at the time they file the complaint. But if they maybe don't have it yet or something, it didn't get put in there at the time of the complaint. And so as soon as that information is put in, into the system, then the interfacing partners will pick up that information. It's not a like, oh my God, it's more of a, this is good stuff to take care of, to make sure that the records that we think are transmitting to the databases that you guys look at.
So that's something you can work on with the sheriff.
We'll be working, but first with the DA, because and so we have, this morning, actually, I thought Sarah already had access to it. She also needs to have access to these CIB reports. So I sent a user request to CCAP this morning so that she can have full access to that. And then we won't overwhelm the DAs or anybody we'll work with as they're able to go through the list and look at them. But
Perfect.
that's a collaboration there. This week we sent out 1,000 jury qualification questionnaires to build next year's pool of jurors. So I contemplated switching us over to a one-step county, which means that we would qualify in summons at the same time next year. But there are no one-judge counties in the state doing that. I didn't want to be the first. A lot of times I like to be the first on stuff, but because we have such an elderly population, we have a lot of people that need to be excused and even like permanently excused from the jury system. It'd be very difficult for us to know exactly how many people we need to summons and qualify each month. And it might hamper trial processes, if I end up with not enough people, and it might cost us too much if I'm overcalling people. I think for us, it still makes sense to qualify everybody in the fall for the next year. And then from those, it's a lot of information then that we have to put in the next couple of months. But then it makes it safer for us to be able to pull the exact number that we need month by month.
So you're doing the same thing this year.
Yeah, so we're
last
continuing being a two-step. You're either a
Right.
one-step or a
Continue
two.
doing what we're doing.
There's more counties that are two-step in the state. And I thought, well, maybe there's somebody out there that's already taken the lead to one, but it's only the big counties that are doing one step. So I don't think it's the right thing for us.
Good. All right. Next.
And in a couple of weeks, we'll be doing, Judge McDougall wants to try selecting multiple juries on one day. So we'll bring all of the jurors from the November panel in on Monday and select 2 juries instead of select one and then go right away with the trial, what we would call a pick and go. We're going to do the jury selection for 2 trials that are set for Thursday and Friday of that week. We're going to do on Monday. And then Thursday and Friday, jurors come in that have been selected on Monday, and they'll be different for each day. And then we hit the ground running. The purpose of doing it this way is that we can work in trials that maybe would normally be a 2-day trial. We probably can get it done in a day. because we're not gonna monkey around with selecting the jury and losing, like 3 hours doing that. So we're gonna try this. Yeah, I think it'll work well. Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, I could.
I know you
I
could. We
go
also.
on and on and on, and I know you
Highlights,
don't-
because we also,
nobody's got
I know
time.
Gage's gonna have to go in a bit too. So.
Yeah, nobody's got time for that, but yeah,
Oh,
it's,
interesting. All right.
yeah, you guys, questions? Thanks.
All right. No, thank you. Because knowing some of the updates and knowing what's coming helps decision making. District attorney's not here. Anything from? Yes.
I did realize as I was scrolling through the packet, there is a coroner's report in the
Oh,
packet.
would you take care of that then?
I can, yep.
Let's see that.
There were 7 cases in October as of the 29th. The ages ranged from 20 to 91. Cause of death included 3 heart-related, 2 accidental deaths, 1 dementia, and 1 autoimmune disease. 2 of the cases involved individuals in hospice care. 1 of the accidental deaths was due to injuries sustained while cutting trees. The other was the result of a motor vehicle accident. All of the cases this month were probations. We are at 100 cases for the year. Last year at this time, we were at 116. 10 years ago, our office was at 74 cases. We have 3 death certificates that were pending manner and cause of death, but after receiving autopsy and toxicology reports this week, all have been completed and we have nothing pending at this time. I'm very thankful for the continued support and relief provided to our office by Mike Jessen. As always, please reach out if you have any questions or concerns.
All right, thank you. Item B, then that's the coroner's report. All right, item F, district attorney isn't here. I don't have anything listed for that. Emergency management, don't have anything for that. PSAP grants and GIS grants, anything new with that?
Yes, and I don't know if Barbara's gonna hop on. We did receive notification this week.
Yep.
Should have received it a couple days ago, yes.
Yep, that we were awarded the PSAP grant.
Yes.
And the GIS grant, both of them.
Oh, I didn't see the GIS one. So, but yes, I did see the PSAP one.
What dollar figure did you guys put in for?
Let me verify. I know it was 80,000 nearly. It was just under 80,000 for one, and it was 144 for the other, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so 80,000 for one, 144 for the other,
I think those are the right amounts.
and both were awarded.
Yes.
Is that a 10% match on that one, or was that one?
One is 5, one's 5 and one's 10, if I'm not.
The PSAP, I believe, was 10.
10, right, and GIS was 5.
Yep.
All right, excellent. Good news on that. Just as an FYI, $16 million was for that grant, the PSAP grant. Only, I think there was a $18 million, and then I think $14 million of requests. There's an extra $4 million sitting. It's going to be used for radio council updates that the agencies can apply for. So that'll be coming out here shortly too.
And one more thing, we also have, all of our money is coming to us from the 2023 grant. Those were all approved and that money will be coming in very shortly.
Excellent, excellent. So the 2025 is what this grant is, and that gives you 18 months to complete this project, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, anything else on the PCF GIS grants? Good job, thank you. That helps a lot getting that system.
Thank you, Barb, because she.
No, thank you guys too. Now we have to get the work done.
Yes, now the work begins. All right, anything else in the PSAP GIS grants? Any questions? Radio tower project. Anything new and refreshing on that is not catastrophic today?
I think we're moving along.
Towers are being
Tower
built.
foundations are being in. Tower steel is coming in. Barb, do you know what the total is of shelters have been built now? Are we at 3 now?
Yeah, three, and I think they're starting the fourth one, was my understanding. They said that they had it all posted. I
Yep.
think they're gonna do the study, now we have all the tower locations. We made progress with US Cellular, so that's a good news.
And, yeah, the study, the,
RF,
propagation study, is that what it is that we've approved them to go ahead and do now? I believe.
mm-hmm,
Was that the one? Yes. So.
Okay. It's November 1st. Get those things up before it freezes. You're gonna have real trouble with climbers and equipment. Good deal. All right, anything else on the radio tower project? I know you guys have been pounding a lot of this last 2 months. Prior also, but things have been coming, all the pieces seem to be.
Things have been moving really fast as of lately.
Okay.
So.
All right. Item J, which is really, I'm gonna strike at the next meeting. I think it's a repetitive topic, mapping radio systems and squad, other than squad updates. You have anything on the squad updates you want to share, Sheriff?
I picked up the last squad that was being upfitted, last week. So, so we have that. It's waiting to be lettered. I'll have to check and see. The other thing, we're waiting to have the camera system configured, but that might have been done. And we did receive a number, if you remember back, on radios. If you remember back, I had put in a request to reallocate some of my capital borrowing funds to purchase radios. So our first batch of radios have arrived. That's all the portable radios. I'm still waiting for the mobiles to come in, but I have those and actually issued them out the other day. So all that stuff.
Okay. Very good. Anything else on that? Squad updates? Nothing? Okay, moving on, then approval of monthly invoices, item number 8. Anything from the committee to review and look at the invoices? Any questions you have with that? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve those bills. Cosgrove, motion, looking for a second. Fleming, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. Let's get right into discussion and possible action. Approval of the amendments to Richland County Sheriff's Department Ordinance 89-7 relating to the department staffing and hiring policies. If you take a look at your packet, you are going to see a draft. It is the draft of that has been redone for 89-7. For the members here, I put 2 copies. I put a copy of what was originally Chapter 16 that went through the county board Friday or Monday, which got postponed. I wanted you to take a look at what that is because that's why I was arguing it. I didn't think it was accurate. The draft that's in here now, I think is good. I have a recommendation of 2 changes in that draft. Page 1, under types of positions in the Richland County Sheriff's Department, the jail administrator lieutenant is not included in that list. And also item line 8, it says the clerk typist, that should be administrative assistant. Those are the 2 phrases on this document that I have found that are incorrect. That everything seems to be fine with it. I did have conversation with Attorney Wendell and the sheriff, and the italicized parts of
That starts in section 2, procedures and standards for hiring personnel.
Yeah, so all the hiring part of this will go into the county policy. Will not be part of the ordinance. The draft you're seeing here does not include that piece of it. The second document on there just goes over some of those changes. At this point, moving the hiring process into the county ordinance, the right way to do it, in my opinion. And then that makes 89-7 ready to go as an ordinance to the county board, which we could do then that will then become chapter 16 that I argued about at the county board. So you guys want to take a look at that? You want to take time to look at that? I would then look for a motion to accept this document with those two changes or any other changes that you have. But that's where I am with this document at this point, after 3.5 years. So I have a motion in a second to accept. Yes.
Yeah.
To accept the draft, going to county board with the two changes, which are adding the jail administrator lieutenant to section D of types of positions, and then changing line 8, RCSO clerk typist to administrative assistant. And then putting the hiring process into the county policy. Yes, Gail's term is correct. Is that it, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so I have a motion and a second discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that is passed. We will move that on to the county board. Package, I think. Solves it, Sean. All right. Thank you for being patient with that long process. Discussion and possible action approved to solicit bids for 2025 squad cars. Sure.
Yes, so, as it sounds, we believe capital borrowing, we put in for 2 squad cars for 2025. I'd like to open up the bidding process for that. I think last year I maybe had already done this by now, but need to get that done and get started on it. So looking for permission to do that.
Because they're going to stop making the 2025s pretty quick. Sadly to say, the 2025s are going to come out of production here very shortly. So I'm looking for a motion to allow the sheriff to solicit bids for squad cars. All right, Cosgrove, Fleming second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Moving on, discussion and possible action to enter into a contract with Flock Safety for LPR cameras. Sheriff.
So this has kind of been a project Aaron and I have been working on for actively for a few months now, but prior to that, it's been a topic of discussion for a little while now. Currently in Richland County, we have a couple license plate reader cameras. They're part of a larger network that we're involved in. We don't pay anything for those cameras. What we're looking to do is add to that, add additional cameras, and what kind of pushed this more into being an active project is we actually received a donation to start the project. So we have funds set aside that were donated to start the initial project. But there's the other side of it, which is maintaining it, which is also quite costly. So what Aaron and I have been doing is we've actually been starting to talk to some area businesses to see if there would be interest in public support of the project. And we've got a number of businesses that are actually interested in helping us fund the project and helping us maintain the project. So like I said, initial startup funds, we've already got covered. What we're looking at now is how can we continue it down the road. So we did in the packet include a quote from Flock Safety. I can talk a little bit about Flock Safety if you'd like, but they're kind of the front runner. And
So what's the advantages of LPR?
so yeah,
Know what that is? Why is that important?
License plate reader. So it's a camera network, and Flock is, I don't know if they're the biggest. I imagine they probably are the biggest network of license plate readers in the country. Don't quote me on that, but I bet they are. And what it gives us the ability to do is track who's moving in and out of the county. Now, are we actively tracking everybody? No, we're not. We're flagging vehicles of interest that are moving in and out of the county. Stolen vehicles, known drug traffickers. If we are suspecting a vehicle of, let's say we have a string of burglaries, which happens every now and then. If we're suspecting vehicles in that, we can start searching for vehicles on that. Another, I guess, lesser known, probably lesser talked about use would be human trafficking. And people with cognitive decline who may go missing is another thing we can use. If somebody has dementia or Alzheimer's, they jump in a vehicle and drive off. If we know the license plate, we can put it into the network. And if it pops up on not even one of our cameras, if it pops up on another camera somewhere else in the state, we'll get a notification. And if we're sharing our hot list with that agency, they'll get a notification that the vehicle traveled through their area. So it really is a game changer as far as being able to find and locate people. So what we were looking at and what the quote says would be 2 fixed position cameras and 1 camera we can move. So if you look, there's the Falcon, Fox Safety Falcon, those are fixed, and then the Flex is a mobile camera.
So how much of these costs are covered by outside funds?
So as of right now, I have one business who expressed interest in funding the recurring costs for 1 camera. He was willing to sponsor 1 camera. And then I have about 10 other businesses that said they would chip in. And we told them what a camera would cost. Aaron and I have been working on this together. We told them what a camera would cost, what the reoccurring cost for 1 camera would be. And, we're just looking for people to chip in. We don't need you to cover the whole camera. Like I said, one guy said, no, I'd sponsor a camera. So I don't have a dollar amount from all those businesses, but at 10 businesses, it doesn't take long to add up to a camera.
So you have the funding from a donation to cover the costs of the initial camera, and you're working on the funding for the reoccurring costs annually.
And the reason I'm bringing it before the committee is because it would be entering into a contract if I agreed to do this, and I don't want to enter into a contract without getting permission. So if you look at it, the initial cost, initial setup was $12,000, and annual recurring is $9,500.
So this is kind of like the K-9 program. If you can get the funding, you can keep it going.
Yeah, yep. And I think, it certainly has value into where I would want to fund it myself. But it is a considerable cost. And so one of the things we were looking at is maybe we can fund the recurring cost of 1 camera from our drug task force line. And if we got the community to support the other 2 cameras, then, we have some skin in the game too. And then the community is supporting it as well.
So what is the ask then? The ask, as I'm hearing, is for this county to approve this to go on to county board because it's a contract, but the funding mechanism isn't set completely yet?
It's not set completely yet, no. That's the, yeah.
Do we need to get that funding figured out first before it goes to county board? Because that's what people are they're gonna want it to be laid out before they vote on it, basically, to make sure that it's gonna be covered if that's what the proposal is.
And
just my guess.
and I guess that's the issue when we're dealing with donated funds is, do we need to
Get them to
Do
pledge.
we need to create a line for this money to go into and then have it go in now?
Or just get them to pledge an amount, maybe.
Yeah,
Just having a list of businesses that pledge X amount of money and it all adds up to the amount that you're needing.
I believe there is a line separate from the K-9 fund that could be used for this. I don't know if it's a reoccurring line though.
I don't know either. So can we find that out and have an answer by next month? What's your time frame? Okay, all right. So I will find out what the funding mechanism is we need to do with that, or you and I can, so we have an answer where those funds can go to. Yeah. Because this isn't a $50 fund. This isn't a $50 donation. So.
I do have a couple questions. You said that we could input information there, like, for example, if there was a stolen vehicle, who would be doing that?
So anybody who's trained to be a user on it could be. So right now it is, the sergeants have the ability, I have the ability, basically anybody in admin has the ability, sergeants and investigator currently. Yep.
So they currently already have that because there's those.
Because we already have the interface and we're involved with those other two.
Right.
cameras, Yeah.
And those other two cameras, are they paid for by the Department of Transportation?
No, they're paid for by a regional drug task force.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yep. It's part of a larger network, so you have cameras. Yep.
Other questions? Are we okay with getting more information on this? All right, thank you for bringing it.
And
I
or
think-
pledges, however it's determined.
Yeah. Okay. All right. They will then move that on to the agenda for next month. Item number 12, then discussion and possible action approval starting a hiring process for a road patrol deputy.
Yeah, so with the passage of the 2025 budget, I have a position I need to fill. So I'm looking for authorization to start a hiring process. My thoughts are that I will advertise the position probably for the month of month of November, with the intention of starting the process in December and hopefully being able to start a person in early January.
To which I say, awesome, good luck. I bet you'll be February or March before that happens, just the way things go. But that'd be great. So I'm looking for a motion to allow the sheriff to start that hiring process.
I'll second.
Cosgrove and Fleming. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
When opposed? None, motion is passed. All right, item number 13, correspondence. Any correspondence? I haven't gotten anything. I see a lot of no's, okay. Item number 14, future agenda items. New, I think we got a few things that'll have to get brought back up again, but we'll do that. Hearing none, item number 15, adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Fleming adjourn, second.
Second.
Dave Church, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chad, for flying down here. It was, I kind of was wondering with the county board on Tuesday,